Hello friends! Today we're going to talk about auction reserves, what they are, why a seller might lower it in the middle of a car auction, and why as a buyer you should never assume that a car won't sell. And yes, I'm still recording from the inside of my Volkswagen Eurovan, but no, I haven't thought of a joke about it this week, so let's just keep moving on. The reserve is the minimum price that a seller will accept at an auction. If a car doesn't hit the reserve price, then it doesn't sell. On Hemmings, when that happens, the listing converts to a premium classified where interested buyers can then make an offer, which is nice. We'll cover how reserve prices are set in a future video, but this one focuses on dropping the reserve. So the reserve helps protect the seller by setting a floor. You can put a car up for auction and know that you'll get at least that minimum price. But the reserve also needs to be set smartly so the car will actually have a chance to sell. When the bidding is at or above the reserve price, the reserve is met. This is sometimes referred to as the reserve is off or the car is at reserve, but you get the idea. And sometimes a seller will lower the reserve once an auction is already underway so that the current bid or the next bid will sell the car, which brings us to the main topic. Lowering the reserve is a strategy that sellers can use to increase the bidding action and sometimes get a higher price, sometimes even higher than the original reserve. The idea is people are more likely to bid when they know a car will sell. Think about it this way. If you're looking at a car that hasn't met reserve, you might watch it and think, I'm going to see where this goes, maybe put in an offer later if it doesn't sell. If you know the car is going to sell, you have to make a decision right then and there whether or not you want to bid. A great example is this 1966 Chevy C20 pickup. The original reserve was $17,000. The seller dropped it to $15,000 a full day before the auction's end, and it finished at $23,205, which includes the 5% buyer's fee. That final push kicked off right before the auction's scheduled ending time. It went into overtime with a new bidder who knew that every single time they clicked the bid button, it could be a winner. Another reason to drop the reserve is to ensure the car sells at the end of the auction. Sometimes you just want to move on. Hemmings auctions listings will get you tens of thousands of views put in front of thousands of registered bidders all over the country and the world, which means that the auction is likely a pretty good indicator of what people are willing to pay. That is, it's highly likely that's the best price you're going to get for the car right now. Now, if you're going to lower the reserve, the best time to do it is at least a day before the end of the auction. That's because a lot of people check in on that final day to see where things stand. If they see that the car is going to sell, that's when the FOMO kicks in. Think of it from a buyer's perspective. It's a lot more enticing to bid knowing that you could win it. This 1928 Ford Model AA fire truck had an original reserve of $36,000. The seller pulled it at $30,000 on the final morning, and it finished with a final price of $45,150. If you want to talk about momentum, 21 bids happened after the reserve was pulled. On that note, as a seller, you usually want to pull the reserve completely. Dropping the reserve by $500 isn't going to make a difference. People want to see that reserve met text under the price. Here's another example with this 1971 Mercedes-Benz 300 SEL 6.3. The seller pulled the reserve from $43,000 to $38,000, and it ended up with a final bid of $45,000. Final price $47,150. In this case, pulling the reserve worked, but it wasn't that much higher than the original reserve. Part of that is because the reserve is usually a pretty good guess of how much money the car will bring. But that brings up a final, very serious point. While pulling the reserve is a tactic that sellers can use to get more bids, there are no guarantees. When the reserve is off, you can't put it back on. The car could sell right then and there at that price. So do not set the reserve at a price you are not comfortable completing the sale. And if you owe money on a car, do not set a reserve lower than what you owe unless you're prepared to make up the difference. That's all for this week. As always, please visit hemmingsauctions.com. There are new cars going up for bids every single day. We have premium classifieds that you can buy right now, and we have an email newsletter. And if you have a car to sell, maybe we can help you with that reserve price. Thanks for watching. See you next time.